Good evening. My name is Odie Hawkins, and I'm here with Salena-Hawkins, and we've been reading you stories. We've been reading your stories. Last year it was excerpts from novels. This year we decided to read short stories to get into things that were not quite so long, maybe not quite so boring. Hopefully it hasn't been boring. This evening, I don't know, the feeling of the day had the sort of thing that made you feel nostalgic. And for myself, it got to making me feel nostalgic for Ghana, which is a place that Zola and I have traveled to. We've gone together 2 times, in 2013 and 2014. Prior to that, I had the experience of going there in 1992 and staying for 3 years till 1995. During the course of that time, I managed to make some very, very, very interesting friends. I would like to say that the Ghanaian friend has to be a different species than any other kind of friend, but I'm sure that somebody would say the same thing if they had Chinese friends or Hungarian friends or whatever. Pardon me for just a minute while I take a sip of my joy juice. Ooh. Now, where was I? Anyway.
Friends.
Friends. I could name many, many, many if I had the time to do it, but this evening I thought I would just give a short little chat about 2 people I got to know very well in Accra. Accra is a fantastic city. It's been on the Ghanaian coast for hundreds of years. It's an old city, like Havana, like Seville, like places that have been in place for hundreds of years. It's divided into different sections. There's a section by the sea that they call Labadi. They used to call it Labadi, which means the bad ones. And then in a, I guess a public relations thing, they decided to change it to La, which doesn't mean anything. There's La, Palm Wine Junction, Osu, Laboni, Roman Ridge, Arebraka, Kanda, different sections and areas of the city. This person I'd like to talk about right now was, or is, a person who opened up the first Montessori School in Ghana. Her name is Susan Amegashie, and I got to know her through a friend of mine. I hate to call him that, but since you shouldn't speak badly of the dead, I won't say anything bad other than the fact that he was an ugly American. Who took me to meet Susan. I had to slip that in. I don't care, dead or alive, he just was an ugly American. If you remember the book, you know, the person who wants to see everything through American eyes, that's what he was about. I had been in Ghana living in a section called Osu, and I don't know, after a week or so, this couple I was renting a room from said, "Hey, how would you like to go and meet an interesting person?" So, yeah, okay. At the time, I only knew the 2 of them, the ugly American and his ugly wife, and I was anxious to go and meet other people. They couldn't be as ugly as these 2 were. So we wound up taking a little drive up to a section called Laboni, which is right up the hill from Osu. Difference between the 2 is immeasurable. It's like a gulf. Osu is down there and Laboni is upscale. Susan Amegashie, slender, beige skin, sister, maybe 5'5" or so, very imperialistic. At the time, she was calling herself a half caste. A half caste. I had no idea what a half caste was, so she explained. Her father was an Ewe man, and her mother was English. My mom was English, which makes me a half caste. After I got to know her a little bit better, I used to joke about, you know, which is the half and which is the caste. Come to find out they were interwoven. We met, and she invited me back. I think it was kind of interesting that she didn't invite him back. She just simply invited me, come back. Her school started at 7 in the morning when it was cool, 5 days a week. Beautiful setting. Her father had given her a house and several thatched huts around the house constitute something like a little village. I think there were about 7 of them. And each one of the little thatched cabanas would hold between, I guess, 20, 25 people. That evening, the evening I went, the afternoon I went, school started from 7:30 to 2. And when the kiddies were ushered out at the end of the day, school really started. I didn't recognize it at first because, you know, in modern times you don't find things like old-fashioned intellectual salons, you know, where people go and to exchange ideas and intellectualize each other and so forth. But I looked up and, you know, it wasn't a huge house, but suddenly there was about 15 different kinds of people. There was a sister from South Africa who was talking to us about what the country was going to be like under Mandela. A couple of Englishmen, you know, who sounded like Mick Jagger. A Nigerian magazine editor, different kinds of people. A couple other African Americans beside myself. I found out that Susan had lived in America, had worked for Motown at one point as a receptionist. How did that happen, Susan? Well, I simply love my English accent. You know how it is. So in addition to that, I was as efficient as all hell. That's the way she was.
Yes.
She ran her school like that. So there we are, we gathered, and she liked to drink Star beer, not ABC or club beer, but Star. And so with Jacob and Zachariah, her 2 men about the house, we were kept constantly supplied with Star beer and ABC. And of course, for some people, the irresistible urge to be just liquid in your conversation is irresistible. And I always noticed after that second bottle of beer going around, people who seemed very quiet would begin to talk and talk.
Oh, yeah.
The conversation was about everything under the sun and beneath the sea and in between. We solved world-class problems, or thought we were going to solve world-class problems. She was a perfect moderator. Religion was sort of, you know, off the table. We didn't talk about which is going to be the best or whose God is the best or anything like that. Politics, yes, but with a certain kind of frame, I noticed. After all, we were in Ghana, and the political situation was always a little bit fluid. I think Jerry Rawlings was still the president at that time. He had come in and taken out the corrupt regime before him. The thing that I think that grabbed me most was the fact that here was somebody who had started a school under very unusual circumstances. Her father had given her this land and these little thatched huts around and said, do something with it. So what she did was to go or recruit people from villages. One I can think of offhand, a young woman named Ernestina. When I first met Ernestina, she had just started wearing shoes, or sandals. And she would take these people and train them to teach. The subjects were just what you'd find in any ordinary grammar school. I think the distinction was there is that she was teaching the teachers to be sensitive to the students. And after having taught in some grammar schools myself, I could tell you a lot of teachers are not taught to be empathetic and to be sympathetic. If we were having, let's say, some conversation and the children had not left yet, they usually left, like I said, at 2 o'clock. If one of the kids talked a little louder than usual on his way out or her way out, or if they, heaven forbid, hear one of them scream or something, her thing was to investigate the source of the irritation. What is wrong with that child? If it was Ernestina or one of the other teachers, they would have to explain. You know, why was I heard little Elsie scream today? She was, oh, madame, she was just simply playing and she screamed out loud. Was it a scream of joy or was it a scream of pain? I couldn't distinguish. Which was it, Ernestina? Well, you know, madame, they was just playing. So, Ernestina, the degrees of cry, the degrees of outbursts, which one did you hear? I think it was playing, madame. So the next time you hear that one scream, for any reason, you determine whether or not she's playing or she's hurt. Something is hurting her. That meant that the children were well cared for, and they weren't spoiled by that either, I noticed. You know, they seemed to respond to it very well. I was thinking of a scene of a couple who came in. They were a South African couple who had immigrated, I should say fled from South Africa because it's a Mandela thing. And they wanted to bring their kids into Susan Amegashie's Montessori School. She did little tests, I found out. One of them was to talk to the parents, who were very, I hate to say it, very imperialistic Boers. There was no racial distinction. She had Lebanese kids in the school and so forth. She decided that these people were not fit for the school, and the reason I asked, so well, the parents are too arrogant, they're too haughty. I don't want to have to deal with that sort of thing. You know, they were saying, she says to them, well, the school year is filled up. We have a waiting list, and they're saying, well, why can't you push us ahead? We'll pay you extra. And she says, no, it's not about payment. It's about whether or not I want your child in my school. I think they had about 3 visits. They were going to convince her, and each time they upped the price. You know, we'll build a couple of new classrooms here, you know. She says, no. Well, who are you holding the classes for? The first opening for children in her school were the children of the servants who worked for her. And I didn't really know that until it was brought out. I think Ernestina had a daughter. I know a couple of the guys had children. And of course, Jacob and Zachariah had kids. So that was a percentage of the people in the school, not a big percentage, but there she was. Susan was a very unusual woman in that she combined graciousness with a bit of a dictatorial thing. Since, you know, you met her, you could find out for yourself that she was apt to go into the local sweet shop and sit to have tea. They do that in Ghana because of the English influence. I think they have tea, and she said, you know, why is my teapot lukewarm? I wanted hot tea. But madame, there's no buts about this.
Right.
The day that we went to a little sweet shop, little pastry shop, and one of the people, I believe, had been one of her students.
Right.
And if you recall, she just simply
Just
was all over him, you know. Well, when are we going to be served? We've been sitting here for at least 30 seconds. And on and on and on.
And on, yeah.
A good friend, on several occasions, when my check didn't come, she loaned me money. No interest, you know. So, you know, so, Odie, you're a good person. To simply pay me. I have to say the same thing for her sister, but that's another story. She sticks out in my mind as one of these people who should be, I think, a citizen of the world or some sort of ambassador or something or other, because she could make people feel that they were of some worth. Coming into her salon, for example. I'm thinking of people who had something to say, but they were almost inarticulate. I mean, who wouldn't be inarticulate listening to a magazine editor from Lagos, Nigeria, who would just simply go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And no one could interrupt him because he had something to say until Susan would say, and he had to shut up. She didn't have a gavel or anything, but she did that. I spent 3 years going back and forth to her salon. I saw her through a divorce and a marriage. Did I mention that she had a daughter named Gigi?
I mentioned.
Yeah, Gigi, I believe now has become an architectural designer or something.
Well, I love him. Okay.
Yeah, but she was a little girl who would frequently show you what she'd done, and for most of the time, the stuff was too deep for me. I mean, I'm thinking of a drawing she had of something that looked like a mountain, and people were running around, you know, beautiful stick figures, the kind of drawings that great artists, the Picasso, they want to draw like little kids. She was a little kid and drew like a little kid.
Okay.
So, you know, Gigi, I really can't decipher this. Can't you see Uncle Odie? She called me Uncle Odie. She called all the grown men Uncle. Can't you see that here there's a volcano exploding and the lava is coming down, and these people are living on the village around the periphery of the mountain, of the exploding volcano. And they're trying to go away before they're all buried by the lava.
Oh.
That's what I said too. Oh. Well, my time came to leave because I had to leave, because getting back to the premise of this series of talks, I had to leave because malaria drove me out. I had been dealing with that demon for 3 years. I had my first shot of malaria about 3 weeks after I landed, and then practically every other week, every 3 weeks at the longest, at the most, I could depend on my malaria to kick in. I must have had some really friendly mosquitoes, because they always bit me.
They loved you.
At that first bite.
They loved you.
No doubt about it.
They loved you.
They loved me. At first bite. So at the end of 3 years, we had a series of salons. I won't say that were in my honor or anything like that, but she gave a little gathering, and we all sat around and did what we usually do, which is try to tell witty stories and, you know, be sarcastic and cynical and all of that. And when she said, you know, he's looking at you, Odie. I said, well, I almost cried.
Oh, yes, of course. Ah.
It was not like, well, Odie's going back to America now, and we may never see him again, and so forth and so on. Fortunately, Zola and I had a chance, like I said, to go back to Ghana 2013 and 2014 and to check the lady out,
Yes.
which we did. And I'm glad we did because she is one of those friends. Of course, now we're doing it by the cyber way, but
Right.
she was, and she is one of those kind of people who becomes a friend and you know she'll be a friend for life.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to pause there for a minute because I'll give it a little shorter shout out to a friend of a friend. One of Susan's closest friends was a lady named Rama Brew. And I'll say this about Rama, starting right now. Rama Brew, a friend I met through my friendship with Susan Amegashie, another small woman, but unlike Susan, African dark, and just as bright as her girlfriend. Rama, that doesn't sound like a Ghanaian name. Actually, it isn't. My dad was the Ghanaian ambassador to India for a number of years. So he decided to name me after one of the Indian deities. Neato, eh?
Neato.
They were great fun to be around, to be with. I knew I was going to be entertained and informed when Rama showed up at Susan's after-hour salon. A surprisingly talented person. It came as a big surprise to know that she was one of the leading actresses on a popular sitcom. It happened like this. Somebody says, Rama, aren't you on this afternoon? TV is over there. No, it was never on. TV was over there. And she said, oh, yes. And it was on. What's going on? Rama's in the, whatever the show was called. I don't know what it's called. And it's a funny kind of thing to sit up with somebody who was a star.
Right.
And TV comes on, and here comes, the sitcom and the lead actresses, and in comes Rama Brew, acting. Well, and in addition to that, we found out when we went, and we had drinks at Cuzzy's place that you could sing.
Yeah.
That little, somewhat Billie Holiday style. Anyway, she's on telly.
Yes.
And we're all quiet as mice, and she's, what do you mean so quiet about? Can't you hear? Yeah, but we want to hear every word you say. I mean, well, okay. I mean, okay, so the show is over. We applaud. And she said, what are you applauding for? Well, I mean, you it's a job.
Thank you.
And they asked me if I'd do it, and I said I'd do it, and I did it.
That's good.
You're one of these kind of people. Anyway, as I was about to say, surprisingly talented person, but her day-to-day behavior displayed no sense of a big ego. Meanwhile, in between pleasant visits, there was always the demon malaria lurking in the wings. I have to come back to that over and over again. As you know, I've managed to write some stories pretending that I was under the influence of malaria. And because I was under the influence of malaria, I could very easily bring it up whenever I wanted to. From time to time, when I was really in the malaria swing, I call it, I could feel like I was being rocked from side to side, and I'm not moving at all. I'm just laying in place with sweat running off of me like I was in I was in a shower. And the rock goes on, and then something that feels like steam is coming out of my body, and I realized that my body is so hot, it's beginning to create steam, and the sweat is coming out.
Goodness, malaria.
Malaria.
Ah.
I was suffering. I found out from Dr. Sunyani. Something. You have cerebral malaria. There's many kinds. This kind is the kind that affected your head, like started at your head, like migraine headaches, and then just went all the way down.
Wow.
So that you would feel like every bone. People talk. You've had flu, where you feel like you got the flu and you're freezing, but you're sweating at the same time. Your teeth are chattering. There's almost nothing you can think of that you would want to eat because you lose your appetite. You think that this will never end.
Wow.
And fearfully, I tell you, fearfully.
I imagine.
Yeah, I was afraid because the medicines that they had for malaria were just completely worthless. Two things. There's something called fluoroquine and chloroquine. Fluoroquine was something they could shoot into you, and then there were chloroquine tabs. And they would do a little bit. It's like having a very bad pain and you're taking Tylenol, and it almost reaches the source of the pain, but doesn't quite get there.
Right.
And then maybe after a few days of taking, people that I knew who had it really badly would take anything.
Of course.
I mean, all you had to do was self. They were trying to self-medicate. Somebody had this brilliant idea that gin would do it. The only problem is Ghanaian gin is about as strong as, I don't know, strong as a cheap wine. So here's somebody that's trying to self-medicate. I tried to do it, and it didn't do anything at all. I couldn't even get drunk.
Oh, wow.
I thought if I could get drunk, maybe I would feel better, but not that. We shared those times. The Amegashie, brew, Odie, whoever thing.
Right.
A little circle of friends, people that we got to know in Osu. We were watching Pastor Edwin 040 Ba the other night.
Yes, indeed.
Preach.
On Facebook. Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy who was one of my capoeira students in Osu, and now he's become an old and respected figure
Yes.
in the religious community. Wonderful to see, because when I knew him as a young man, he was just simply interested in good times and more good times and more good times.
Yes, indeed.
Now he's interested in.
And he has the voice.
Yes,
he has the voice.
I stopped trying to imitate him.
Yeah. He's doing
Because if someone can say to you, you are wonderful.
he did.
You are wonderful. Even imitation,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to hear him speak in Ga,
I'm sure.
that was a treat.
That was a treat.
That ends my little chit chat this evening
All right.
about two people and brief mentions of some other people that we knew in Ghana.
Friends.
And
In that moment in time.
that moment in time.
In Ghana. In Ghana here.
In Ghana here. Bless you all. And
Thank you very much. Odie,
see
your
you
website.
next Monday.
Well, your website is www.odiehawkins.com.
That's it.
Right.
That's
All
it.
right. And let's see here. So I guess we shall end. We'll be posting this a little bit later, like next Monday. All right. So
It
yes,
is looking at you.
you too, kid.